Hi everybody, Canalix here. So for the last few years, I've been really interested in making little projects and games and things like that. And I recently had this idea for a huge online kind of game. Now, normally I would just do this by myself and then, maybe give up on the project or finish it. But I actually had this idea that I would go through and I would record myself doing everything from coming up with the idea to basically coding it to publishing it. And so this video wouldn't really be a tutorial, but it would be more like a kind of walk through my process. And I think it would just be interesting for other people watching to see how do I go about doing this, and what does it actually look like. So anyways, that's the idea for this video. I'm not sure it'll be interesting for everybody, but if you've ever been curious about how are games made and just coding in general, I think this video might be kind of cool. Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see. But anyways, yeah. So I guess let's get into it. Okay, so let me explain real quick the idea that I had, and then we're gonna kind of split it up into parts and explain what it actually takes to make something like this. So the game I want to make, it takes a lot of inspiration from this thing I used to play called Hardcore Factions, as well as a game called FTL, which is a game about spaceships and stuff like that. So the idea that I had was basically that there would be a huge open universe. Okay, this is space. And basically every player plays on the same map. And on this map, there is a bunch of tiny little planets, okay? There's just planets in this universe, kind of as there are in real life. Now, each player plays as a kind of a fleet of ships, so multiple ships. They've got a kingship as well as other little ships that they can control and move around the map. If your kingship dies, if it gets destroyed, you are banned from the game entirely, so you're gone forever, which means you have one life and only really one attempt to try and beat the game. Now, there's 5 types of ships that I kind of thought of. There would be a kingship, which is basically your kind of player, your main ship. If that gets destroyed, you lose. There's miner ships, which can collect resources from planets and help you build more ships. There is fighter ships, which basically can attack other players and defend your kingship and different kind of planets that you're at. There would also be a cargo ship, which can help you carry resources, and then a pirate ship, which is able to rob and basically steal resources from other players. Now, the basic idea is that you can just move your camera all around the universe, so you can just see where people are, what they're doing, and you can actually select your ships. For example, if I had a ship stationed on this planet, and I can send it to other planets. Okay, so you just pick a ship, pick multiple ships, and you direct them to another planet. And the idea, the whole strategy of this game, is that you're supposed to defend your ship, expand your empire, if you will, try and control as much land as you can, and you need to basically be collecting resources. And one of these planets, there's a ton of them, there could be thousands of these. One of these planets is going to actually have a special item of some kind that gives you a strong advantage over all the other players. And it basically, once that item is found, no more players can join the game, and it's basically just a fight to the death. And the winner is going to be the last person alive. And if you have this item, that'll give you a strong advantage. So assuming people don't team up on you, you're probably going to win the game. So let me explain real quick the combat mechanic of this game. So the idea is that every ship can only be stationed on one planet at one time, and it always has to be on a planet. So the positions are kind of fixed wherever the planets are. Now, the way it works is that if there is a planet and nobody else is on it, you can basically station your fighters, your miners, things like that. I'm just going to do some circles and some different shapes and stuff, but you can station your characters. If a ship arrives at a planet, meaning you send a ship there and someone is there already, that's when the combat will start. So for example, if I send a fighter here, they're going to start fighting. Now, I'm probably going to just do a simple system where one fighter ship takes out one fighter ship. So for example, here there would be a fight and both of these would get destroyed or something. But if you arrive to a ship, or rather you arrive to a planet, and this doesn't exist, this is dead, meaning that you've only got miners and cargo and stuff like that, well, then you can just destroy them and you've basically conquered the planet. So that makes it really important for you to defend your different ships and to basically have enough firepower with them so that if an enemy attacks, you basically are prepared for that. And then one other important part is that let's say you have a ship, or sorry, let's say you have a planet and you've got your kingship on it. I'm going to draw a star here. Oh God. Okay. That's a kingship. If you have that and you've got fighter ships, they'll be more powerful since they're defending your king. And so the idea is that defense is usually going to be stronger than offense because, especially for newer players, if someone has a really strong fleet, you don't stand a chance unless you're on your home planet. And that's kind of like a home advantage. So that's a basic idea behind the combat system. Let's think about kind of how the map would be laid out. So my thinking is that the easiest way would be basically just to have a big square map. And then within these, you would have equally spaced out planets. Okay, now this doesn't look pretty, right? This wouldn't be a super cool way of doing it, but this is a good start, especially when we're just kind of fleshing out the idea. So the basic idea is that the map would be generated on a server. A server is just a computer that's running in probably my basement, or maybe I'll pay someone to host it for me. But basically we have the server that generates the map. And then whenever a player joins, if this is their first time joining, we're going to assign them a random position on a random map. And we'll give them what I think would be a kingship and maybe 2 minor ships or something like that. I don't know what minors are. I'm just doing shapes for now. Okay, so you get 3 ships and they all get stationed on a random empty planet. Once you have that, we'll have an action, which is basically going to be a player specifying, hey, I want to move this ship, and then a location. Okay, where do I want to go to? And I think when we actually do the movement, maybe what I'll do is that you can only move them one at a time, and you can only move to an adjacent planet. So if I'm here, I can't go to here. That would be too far. I would need to first go to here, then I go to here, then I could go up here or down over here. It doesn't really matter, but that's how I would get there. Okay, so that has some pretty basic parts. Here, I'll just write them out. We have the create map part, which is done by the server. We have the join, which is kind of a combination of the server and the client. Client being the person who's playing. And then we have a move action. And every move basically would trigger some kind of code on the server to basically figure out if any combat happened and what's going on with that. Okay, and then we also have a kind of a loop, which is going to be happening over and over and over as long as the game is playing. And that's going to be the cycle where people are collecting resources. And then one last thing that I thought of is we also need a way of creating ships. And so we might have a build action, which is triggered by the client and sent to the server. And assuming that the player has all the requirements for that, then they can build a ship and it'll just be docked on that planet that they're on. Okay, so let's get started with the actual code. I'm going to try and explain as much as I can as we move through it, but there will definitely be parts that I'm missing. So I'll try and make this project open source too, which means you can go and you can actually look at the code and you can see, exactly what I did. But again, this is just a walkthrough, so you're not going to really see the bare bones detail. Okay, let's keep going.